Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I am here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments so that I may answer your questions. I have a great topic to talk to you about tonight, and it is what happens when you are called back for a second marriage based interview. What is that all about, and what's going to happen there? What should you expect? Now, this is called the Stokes Interview, and you need to be wary at this point because at this point, what it means is that they suspect that your marriage is not real. That is a sham marriage. And so they call you back for a second interview to really figure out whether your marriage is real or not, and how to classify how and what decision to make in your marriage-based application. So there is a lot at stake at this point. So you should not be taking this lightly. When you go into this Stokes interview, you need to be aware that it may not be the easiest interview. Some of them last 4 hours just because you may be questioned with your spouse, and then you're separated from your spouse and you're questioned again separately. So it's very important to make sure that you touch base with your spouse, that you know what's in your application, that the both of you, for example, I always know, or I always see where one spouse remembers events much better than the other spouse. That is not the time to be doing that. The two of you should be on the same page. The two of you need to recollect things, the way you met, what your wedding was like, your family members. You both need to be on the same page in regards to that, because if you're not, it's going to be very damaging, especially at the point you're in the Stokes interview. That means that you have been called into your second marriage-based interview. Now, here's a way to avoid the Stokes interview. It's to prepare a strong application from the start. When you set a good tone for your application, then the officer is going to appreciate that. And so when they're reviewing your application, they will see fully the timeline of your marriage, the story of your marriage. Hi there. Good night, Carol. It's nice to see you. Thanks for joining. They're going to see the timeline of your marriage, and they're going to find the evidence helpful in telling them whether or not your marriage is real, is bona fide, that you do mean to spend your life together. One big mistake that I find that couples make, if they go ahead and file on their own, is that they underestimate the process and they put together a very shabby application. The application that they submit only has a marriage certificate and nothing else, or a marriage certificate and some pictures. That is not a strong application. And if you're submitting an application like that, guaranteed you're going to go into a tough interview. If you're called in for the first interview, it's going to be a tough interview. Keep in mind that they do review the application before the interview, and if they are not, if they don't buy the evidence in the paper form, they could very well deny the application before you get to the interview. So creating a strong application from the start is going to be very, very important here. You don't think that you're going to fill out a form, that you're going to attach the marriage certificate, and then that's going to be it. You have to make sure that you include evidence. So evidence is going to include, for example, insurance policies to show that you share any insurance. So insurance at work, health insurance. It could be car insurance, it could be dental insurance, just to show that the both of you are starting to share these types of benefits, and that these are benefits that you both are partaking in together. For example, the US citizen spouse, or even the the immigrant spouse, if you have a job and you're allowed to put your spouse on there, then usually newlyweds, shortly after you get married, so that's a major life change, you're able to put your spouse on your insurance policy, your healthcare insurance, your life insurance. And so it would be great to start to get into that and make sure you have that going. Utility bills, shared lease. If you have friends and family who can write affidavits describing what they know about your marriage, what they know about your relationship, that could also serve as good evidence. If you have joint property doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have real estate, but it could be a car together. If you have something that is valuable, if you have anything with both of your names on it, any type of property, you should show evidence of that. So, in a nutshell, make sure that you consider the evidence that you have available to you from the start, and do not underestimate your process. Get legal representation and a qualified attorney that can assist you through this process. Let's see here. So, asylum process in Texas for minors. So there's no separate asylum process for minors. It just depends on what is this particular minor going through, and there's no particular asylum process in Texas. This is immigration law, it's federal law, and so it's going to depend on what's going on in that particular minor situation that would qualify them for asylum. What about if you're in another country? What kind of evidence would be good? So the same types of evidence, even though you're in a different country, I have still seen where they've had the couple still share their expenses. They couple, for example, the spouse in the US may pay for the lease, or maybe on the lease of the spouse in the other country. They may buy property together. They may buy a car together. They may have a house together. And also other types of evidence showing that you have seen each other back and forth, you're traveling back and forth, affidavits from friends and family would also be good evidence if you're in another country. What happens after your case was sent to the Department of State? So after that, if it gets sent to the national, that's usually the National Visa Center. And then what the National Visa Center does is, when it is time to process the case, they get in touch with the petitioner and the beneficiary, and then they have they issue an affidavit of support fee, so invoice, as well as an immigration application invoice. My fiance is from the US and is coming to get married. How can I leave my country with him? So, Princess Diary, there's a specific process, and you and your fiance can always call, schedule a consultation, and we can get into detail about your situation. I can walk you through the process and represent you through the process. Tonight, I am talking about what happens when you get to the second marriage-based interview. This is called the Stokes Interview, usually in the adjustment of status process. But I'm also talking about the marriage-based. So this is a part of the marriage-based, but usually towards the tail end. Now, when you submit, so you get married, your spouse has to file a petition in the United States. And that's what I'm talking about. From the start, you want to create a strong application. And so that's where you should not underestimate this process. and you should, that's where you need to schedule a consultation and get legal representation. I am a U.S. immigration attorney, and I am here. Thanks so much, Christopher. I appreciate that that compliment. Now, I am available. There is a scheduling coordinator who's available up until 11 p.m. tonight. If you'd like to go ahead, click on the link in my bio. If you go to the website, you will be taken there where you'll see the phone number. Phone number is also all over my video. So you can call, schedule a consultation, and then I can give you personalized legal advice about how you need to go about it. But generally speaking, the spouse needs to file the petition. Once it is processed, then it is going to go to the National Visa Center after it's approved, where they're going to also process you for your interview. Still waiting for a response. I-130 was filed in November 2020. So I-130s are taking a while, unfortunately. So, you know, you should check on your status with the USCIS. Because I'm not the attorney on your file, I wouldn't be able to tell what is going on in your case. Thanks so much, Christopher, for the roses. I appreciate it. Thank you. So keep putting those questions in so I never get through with my marriage visa. So I am the God bless. We would have to, in this case, if you didn't get through, I don't know if that means you got denied or you and your spouse agreed not to go forward with it, but that's where you should get personalized legal advice. If you do have a real marriage, the both of you want to spend your lives together, and there for some reason you did not get through. This may be because there was a flaw in your application. This may be because you didn't present the case in a way, so you got denied. So in this case, I am the God bless. If you and your spouse are together, you want to spend your lives together, this is something that you deserve. And it may very well be that your case wasn't presented well. And this is where I talk about making sure that you have legal representation, because many times individuals, they underestimate the marriage-based process. And when they do that, that's where you get into trouble, right? Because some individuals, I'm not saying it's you because I don't know your situation, but many individuals, what I find is they complete an application, they submit it, and they think, even when one spouse wants to hire a lawyer and then the other's like, there's no need for it, I know what I'm doing, and they really don't, because it is complex. What I like to explain is that when you're looking at an immigration form, each question on that form has complex immigration law requirements behind it. And so if you answer that question incorrectly or you don't fully understand the implications of your answer, that's where things can go wrong. And so a part of it is not just filling out a form, but also attaching a presentable marriage-based application. And so schedule a consultation, you and your spouse. I can have a consultation with both you and your spouse. We can talk about what happened in your case, and then I can determine whether there's a way to move forward. In some cases, with marriage-based cases, it depends on how things went down. It depends on what happened. But if you may be able to apply again. I-130 approved. How long will it take for travel documents and 485? So Sanjay, if your I-130 is approved, it's going to come, whether you can file an I-485, whether you already have, is going to depend on if you have an immigrant visa number available to you. If you've already filed, right now you could be looking at anywhere from 4 months to 11 months to get your work permit and travel document. My mother sponsored my father still 2019, but can you tell me what happens to the paper? So, Christine Sukram, I wouldn't be able to tell you because I don't know what your situation is. I'm not the attorney on record, and so I wouldn't be able to advise you on what happened to the paper. Usually, when it's filed, it's usually the I-130. It stays there and it's in process for a while until they make a decision, and then it moves to the National Visa Center. Usually, when you file it, how you know that it's processing is you will get a receipt notice saying that it's in process. Okay, so Sanjay, so you have to file. Keep in mind, Sanjay, that if you have an approved I-130, it's very important for you to understand that you have to meet certain requirements in order to file an adjustment of status to get the work permit and the travel document. It's not, in some cases, it depends on who your relative is or what kind of application you're filing. But in some cases, if you don't have an immigrant visa number available to you and you don't have current valid immigration status in the United States, adjustment of status, you may not be ready to file that. That's where the consultation is going to be very, very important to determine whether you can go ahead and file adjustment of status. My friend just wrote to Congress. She's waiting almost 3.5 years now for the interview. So yes, so that is a tool that you can use. You can request that you get an intervention, or you can request an inquiry from a representative or senator in your state to assist you, especially when things are taking long and you can't figure out why. So how long would it take for work permit to be approved for a visitor to the US? So Measure 221, you cannot be on a visitor's visa and have a work permit. Work permits are only for those who are applying for an immigration benefit while being in the United States, and that immigration benefit allows for them to apply for a work permit at the same time. They denied my spouse visa, so I was wondering if I could get a visitor's visa. I am the God bless. It depends. I wouldn't be able to answer whether you in particular could get a visitor's visa. What I will say is that if you've been denied for your spouse for the visa to come to the United States, so if an immigrant visa to gain permanent residence in the United States, it's highly unlikely that they're going to approve a visitor's visa unless you can really show convincing evidence that you have strong ties to your home country that will make you return after a temporary visit. So I'm a USA citizen, got through the juvenile visa, special immigrant. Can I file for my mom and stepfather? Now, Shorty Salvi 13, I don't know all your circumstances. I'm not your attorney. But it's called the SIJS, so Special Immigrant Juvenile Status. And this is for individuals who came to the United States and were abandoned or abused by their parents, one or both parents. And so you're without a guardian or dependable guardian in the United States. When you can file for this, as long as you're under 21, there is a process to go through in the state to get to be declared a dependent of the court in your state. And then from there, once you get that order from the court, you can go ahead and apply for this status as long as you're under 21. Now, the trade-off with this is that if you got the SIJS, it's going to also mean that you cannot file for your parents. So that is a rule that generally it's a rule. I don't know your case, but generally it is a rule that you cannot file for your parents once you become a US citizen. When my fiance and I get married, can he take me to the embassy and get my visa so I can go with him? Princess Diary 82, I'm glad that you've brought this up because many couples have had a rude awakening with this. I find that a lot of Americans have a misconception that once they are married to their a foreign or an immigrant, that all they have to do is go to the embassy, get the visa, and bring their spouse to the United States. This is why I say get legal representation, get legal advice, because once again, they are underestimating the immigration process here. No, it's highly unlikely that you will, as a matter of fact, getting married and then going to the embassy and asking for a visa based on the marriage is going to definitely tell an immigration officer that you intend to come to the United States to live with your spouse. A visitor's visa is there to get a temporary visit to the United States. And so it really just depends on the evidence that you can show that you will temporarily stay in the United States. So it's highly unlikely, and actually it doesn't work that way. So you can't just get married and then based on the marriage, go get a visitor's visa or a visa to go to the US. There is a process. There's your spouse usually has to return to the US, file the petition, and then the petition is processed, and there's a lot of evidence that has to go in there. When the evidence is gathered, there's a strong application supporting that the marriage is real. It is approved and then sent to the National Visa Center where they prepare for the interview. This whole process right now is taking about 18 to 24 months. Is there a way to add more evidence after submitting the I-130 application? So absolutely, you are always free to add the evidence later on, but you should not be preparing the application with that intention, just because you never know when they're going to review your application. So Carol, Black Barbie, so yeah, so there is a backlog with work permits right now. Is it a long process for the fiance visa? The fiance visa right now, you're looking at about 18 months for those. So let's see. All right, so that's going to be it for me tonight. I'm going to head on over to Instagram though. So I'm not completely finished with the live shows. It's just that I have a scheduled one on Instagram. So what you can do is join me on Instagram. Hi there, Jewel Mackay. It's nice to see you. So join me on Instagram, and then we can continue this conversation. If you don't want to join me, or you know that you're going to need personal legal advice, what you need to do is go ahead, go to the link in my bio, and then go to the website. And or you can schedule your own appointment. So there are many different ways to get in touch. You can call, my number's all over my videos. You can go ahead and visit the website. There's an online chat, there's a contact form. You can get in touch with the scheduling coordinators that way. So go ahead, do that. The scheduling coordinator is available up until 11 p.m. tonight to schedule. My calendar is filling up throughout January, and if you want to have a great head start in 2022, go ahead and do that now so we can get to talking and then get started on your case. It was a pleasure to answer all of your questions. If you want, just hop on over to Instagram. I'm the immigration attorney, same as here on Instagram, where we can talk more about the Stokes interview. This is basically where you're called in for a second marriage-based interview. Now, my number one tip of the day here is, if you want to avoid the Stokes interview, you need to prepare a strong application from the start. And that's where you should get representation, at least a consultation, to determine how you can go about creating a strong application throughout your process to avoid this. Because the Stokes interview, the second interview, means that they suspect that it's a sham marriage that you have going, and they want to see if that is the case by questioning you again. So by the time you get to the Stokes interview, you should definitely have strong evidence of your bona fide marriage, and you should both make sure that you're in tune with each other and ready for this type of interview. So have a good night. I will see you tomorrow at around 9 p.m. Eastern time, or I'll see you in a minute on Instagram or Facebook. On Facebook, I'm ST Law Office. And also on Instagram, I'm The Immigration Attorney. If I don't see you in a minute, then I hope to speak with you in a consultation. I'm here most nights, with few exceptions, of course. But most nights, if you don't see me on TikTok, you'll see me on YouTube. If you don't see me on YouTube, you'll see me on Instagram. If you don't see me on Instagram, you'll see me on SC Law Office. So many different ways to see me and get in touch with me. Have a great night. Sun, grace, love. It's nice to see you. I'm hopping on over to Instagram. I'm The Immigration Attorney on Instagram. Can join me there, and I can answer your question. Have a good